Britain in the 1970s was a country of contrasts. Factory whistles still echoed across industrial towns, family holidays meant crowded motorways heading for the coast, and owning a car was no longer just a dream. It had become part of everyday life. Drive down almost any suburban street, and the same familiar shapes filled driveway after driveway, each carrying memories of school runs, rainy commutes, and treasured weekends away. But somewhere along the way, these once common companions quietly disappeared. If Britain's motoring past stirs your memories, consider subscribing as we continue uncovering the forgotten stories hidden behind the cars that shaped a generation. Tonight, we revisit 10 British cars that once seemed impossible to imagine Britain without, and discover where they all went.
At number 10 is the Morris Marina, introduced by British Leyland in 1971. It arrived with enormous expectations. Offered as a saloon, coupe, and estate, with engines ranging from a modest 1.3-liter A-Series to a livelier 1.8-liter B-Series, producing around 95 horsepower, it promised dependable family motoring at a sensible price. For many households, the Marina represented progress. Parents proudly collected one from brightly lit dealerships, believing they had bought a modern companion for years to come. But behind its familiar styling lay aging engineering, vague handling, and suspension that critics never truly embraced. Rust soon became another unwelcome visitor. Even so, children learned to drive in them, groceries filled their boots, and countless seaside holidays began behind their steering wheels. Today, only a handful remain, but the next car vanished even more dramatically.
At number 9 sits the Austin Allegro, launched in 1973. It was supposed to carry Britain confidently into a new era. Its rounded body, front-wheel drive layout, and hydrogas suspension promised innovation rather than tradition. Buyers appreciated its surprisingly spacious cabin and economical engines between 1.1 and 1.7 liters. Families believed they were investing in the future. Unfortunately, inconsistent build quality, awkward styling, and stories of mechanical frustrations quickly overshadowed its clever ideas. Owners often spoke of unexpected repairs instead of enjoyable journeys. Yet, despite the criticism, thousands faithfully served ordinary families through difficult economic times, carrying children to school and grandparents to Sunday dinners. The Allegro became part of daily life before quietly fading away. But what comes next carried a far grander ambition. At number 8 is the Triumph Dolomite, introduced in 1972. Elegant without being extravagant, it appealed to drivers wanting a touch of executive style without luxury car prices. The range culminated in the famous Sprint, powered by a sophisticated 2-liter 16-valve engine, producing around 127 horsepower, remarkable performance for its day. The wood trim, supportive seats, and refined driving manners made owners feel they had climbed another rung on Britain's social ladder. Yet, maintaining that sophistication could become expensive, while corrosion steadily claimed many examples. For countless professionals, however, arriving home in a Dolomite brought quiet satisfaction after long working days. Those moments of pride remain vivid, even if the cars themselves have largely disappeared. Sadly, the next story is even more personal.
At number 7 is the Hillman Avenger, introduced by the Roots Group in 1970 before eventually wearing Chrysler badges. Designed as a practical family saloon, it offered dependable engines from 1.25 to 1.5 liters and handling that many journalists genuinely admired. It felt eager, simple, and honest. Young couples often chose the Avenger as their first brand new car, celebrating milestones that stretched far beyond motoring. Babies came home from hospital in its rear seats. Camping gear disappeared into its boot each summer. But relentless rust proved merciless, particularly in Britain's damp climate. Many Avengers simply dissolved long before their mechanical components wore out. Their disappearance was gradual, almost unnoticed. Yet another familiar face would soon become even rarer.
At number 6 is the Vauxhall Viva HC.
Although produced until 1979, it remained one of Britain's most recognizable sights throughout the decade. Available with engines from 13 to 23 liters, it appealed to everyone from first-time motorists to company fleet buyers. It was uncomplicated transport in the best sense of the phrase. Reliable enough for everyday life and inexpensive to maintain, the Viva quietly became woven into British suburbia. Children recognized its shape from neighbors' driveways as easily as they recognized the local postman. But changing tastes, fierce competition, and corrosion steadily erased them from the roads. Few people realized they were witnessing the end of an everyday icon. The next car, however, carried an entirely different kind of prestige. At number 5 stands the Rover P6. Introduced in the 1960s but flourishing throughout the 1970s, it represented understated British success. Whether equipped with the smooth 2.0-liter four-cylinder or the charismatic 3.5-liter V8 producing around 150 horsepower, the P6 combined engineering sophistication with dignified styling. Doctors, architects, and business owners admired its confidence without ostentation. Sliding behind its wheel felt like stepping into a quieter, more respectable world. But sophisticated engineering meant higher maintenance costs, while rust quietly attacked its structure beneath elegant panels. Many owners reluctantly parted with them when repairs became overwhelming. Even today, surviving examples remind us that true class rarely shouted. Yet number 4 tells an even broader story of changing Britain. At number 4 is the Austin Maxi. Introduced in 1969 and continuing strongly into the 1970s, it was one of Britain's earliest practical hatchbacks. With 5 doors, folding seats, and engines up to 175 liters, it anticipated the needs of growing families before many rivals caught on. Parents appreciated its versatility during shopping trips, school holidays, and countless motorway adventures. Yet, awkward gear changes and indifferent build quality frustrated many owners. It was a clever idea that never fully escaped its imperfections. Even so, families remember Maxis packed with luggage, picnic baskets, and excited children heading towards Cornwall or the Lake District. Those journeys mattered far more than the car's flaws. But our next entry became an even stronger symbol of family life. At number 3 is the Ford Cortina Mark IV, built in Britain from 1976. While Ford was not a British-owned company, the Cortina became inseparable from British roads and British families. Engines ranged from an economical 1.3 litres to a muscular 2.3-litre V6. Company representatives, teachers, builders, and young parents all found something to like. It balanced affordability with comfort so effectively that entire housing estates seemed filled with Cortinas. Washing one on a Sunday morning became almost a weekly ritual across Britain. Yet heavy use, rust, and years of hard service meant many simply wore out. They were driven, loved, and eventually discarded without anyone imagining they would become collectible. Still, 2 cars remain whose disappearance feels even more surprising. At number 2 is the Austin Princess, launched in 1975. With its striking wedge-shaped styling and spacious interior, it looked unlike anything else on British roads. It felt futuristic, almost daring. Engines from 18 to 2.2 liters offered respectable performance, while hydrogas suspension delivered remarkable ride comfort over Britain's uneven roads. Buyers believed they were embracing tomorrow. Unfortunately, quality control problems, electrical faults, and disappointing reliability clouded its bold vision. Owners often found themselves explaining its shortcomings to puzzled neighbors who admired its appearance. Yet, those who cherished their princess remember extraordinary comfort and a sense of owning something genuinely different. Time has been kinder to its reputation than the marketplace ever was. But one car defined the decade more completely than any other. At number 1 is the Morris Marina official production. Ended in 1971, but throughout the early years of the decade, it still filled British driveways in astonishing numbers. Designed by Sir Alec Isigonis, powered most commonly by its faithful 1.1-liter engine, producing around 48 horsepower, the Marina had become much more than transport.
It was Britain's trusted companion. It carried newly married couples to their first homes, builders to early morning jobs, children to school, and pensioners on gentle countryside outings. It asked for little and gave so much in return. Eventually, newer cars with greater comfort and modern safety replaced it. Many were scrapped simply because they seemed ordinary. Yet, looking back, perhaps ordinary was exactly what made the Miner extraordinary. It quietly served a nation rebuilding itself, asking for no applause. These cars were never merely collections of steel, rubber, and glass. They witnessed birthdays, family arguments, seaside holidays, first driving lessons, and final journeys home. They reflected Britain's changing fortunes through strikes, inflation, optimism, and uncertainty. Their disappearance reminds us that history often slips away without ceremony, leaving only fading photographs, old registration numbers, and stories shared across generations. Which of these cars brings back the strongest memory for you? Perhaps your family owned one, learned to drive in one, or wished they never had. Share your story in the comments, because those memories keep these remarkable machines alive. If you enjoy exploring Britain's forgotten motoring history, consider joining us for the next journey, where we'll uncover another chapter of the cars that shaped a nation before quietly disappearing into the past.